Hey, Burak. Welcome to Let's Talk Quality, the podcast. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Hemish?
Yeah, good. Good. Thanks for joining. You've been a busy man traveling around in a new role, so I appreciate your time. For the listeners, just give them a very quick overview of who you are, what your role is right now.
Sure. First, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I've been watching your podcast with other people before, and a lot of them I know from past lives, so I really enjoy it. So my name is Burak Begen. I'm the head of global manufacturing quality for Siemens Healthineers. That involves 7 manufacturing sites, distribution centers, and supplier quality. It's a wide range role, which requires a lot of travel, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy meeting with people, understanding problems, problem solving, making sure that we have quality and compliant product.
We'll get into that. So, how did you first get into science? What was your first sort of memory of getting into a science-based role?
So it's interesting. I'm originally from Turkey. So when I was growing up, I really didn't know what to do. Some people grow up like wanting to be a doctor or a firefighter or something, right? So I wasn't sure. I enjoyed art a lot, but it's a tough profession to be in, being an artist. So I switched my interest more into science because I enjoyed solving problems, math problems, physics problems. So that's how it all started. I wasn't quite sure. I thought with a lot of math, engineering would be a very good profession, but I wasn't even sure what type of engineering. So we have at the time, we had a examination system in Turkey, and that's how I got in. I put a couple of different engineering, and I got into chemical engineering. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I started making connections with drug manufacturing and helping people. My family, my parents always wanted me to be a doctor. I didn't like it. And this was the closest thing, being in drug manufacturing, helping people, maybe even more widely than a single person at a time. So that's how I got into, I think, pharmaceuticals to start with.
Okay. And so when did you move to the US?
I came to US in 2002 for my PhD. So I have a PhD in polymer science. That was my coming to US. Initially, I had some career before that as well. I started my career in Turkey at Novartis, and then after a number of years, I decided to take my PhD. So I stopped my career, went back to school, and that's how I came to US.
And did you go to Boston initially, or
No,
how did
no.
you end up in
So
Boston?
it was University of Akron. So it's a polymer science program, Goodyear polymer science program. So it is very well known around the polymer field. So that's in Ohio, Akron, Ohio. So that was my first entry into US.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So for those listeners that don't know you, and our listener base is generally quality professionals from all different levels, is there anything that, if I was to say to you, what defines your sort of story, your career story to where you are now? And I know that you're not finished in your journey, but to date, if there was one sort of sentence or one sort of theme that defines your career journey, what would it be?
I think I don't want to be too dramatic, but perseverance probably is how I would define it. I started, as I mentioned, my career in Turkey. I became a manager at Novartis, and I stopped everything and came to a different country and started all over again. During PhD, my only income was assistantship, which was at the time $19,000 a year. It took 5 years to get the PhD, and after that, it wasn't easy. Coming as an immigrant into the country, getting the visa to work and finding a job to work is not easy. And even when I found it, I started from scratch. I started as a specialist, and slowly grew up in my career. I've seen 2007-8 housing crisis, which I lost my job during that time. And then when I was working in Cleveland for Boehringer, we shut down the facility. So I again, looking for a job, looking for a new place. Sanofi was really my home for 9 years. So a lot of ups and downs. It's not easy, especially I think coming from outside and building a career in a country that you're not necessarily a native speaker. When I came, I wasn't that fluent. I knew English, of course, but it comes in time. Getting acceptance it takes time. It takes time and a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. So that's why I think I would say perseverance.
And why quality? How did you, what was it about quality that you loved that made you think this is my career? I want to become a quality leader.
It's interesting. I almost started my career in quality. I honestly, and it wasn't a choice. It was the first available job, to be very honest with you. I liked it. I like working with people. I always looked at quality as helping other people. It's not about, this is a big discussion, right? Is quality like it shouldn't be the police watching over you? I totally agree with that approach. And that defined my career. I think I was successful in quality because I always try to understand the problems, try to work with our partners. Instead of telling them what to do, discussing and aligning on what we should do as a company and finding the right approach, considering the risks. I enjoyed it. I truly enjoyed it. That's why I never thought about actually getting out of quality. I have about 2 years of engineering. When I first came to US after my PhD, that was my first job. I honestly didn't like it all that much and went back to quality very quickly. And I worked in every part of quality. So I started reviewing batch records, then complaints and investigations, change control. I became a change control manager in Novartis. I work with data, so statistics, and I had a group that we analyzed a lot of quality data. I worked in QC, managed QC departments for a number of years, then manage compliance, head of compliance at Sanofi. So I worked in every part of quality that you can think of, and I enjoyed every bit of it. That's why I think overseeing a lot of things at the same time for quality is what I enjoy. So it is not really narrowing your vision, but like opening up and how we can connect all the parts of quality and understanding risk is what I enjoy the most.
And going back to your point around perseverance in your, that you've experienced over the course of your early life, how did that shape your career? How did that shape your leadership philosophy, how you manage people, how you lead people, how you show up every day?
My teams would definitely know me. I would never give up. And I think that's what I want from my teams as well. I'll give you a very funny example. We used to have deviations and extend them. You extend deviations if you think that you cannot finish the investigation by time. That's the compliant thing to do. But my team knows that I don't like extensions like couple days before. Work until the last day. You can write up and get the extension ready, but I want my teams not to give up on things and be ambitious on what we do. At the end, you take pride of what you do, and that's what I want my teams to do. Back in the day, we started with very poor performance of record closures and a lot of backlogs, and it was accepted. And I want people to say, is this the work that you do? Like, you should not be giving up on things. And your job is, as quality professionals, to close the records on time, release the product to the market because our patients are waiting. So have pride in what they do and show that perseverance as well. Going through tough times, maybe there's a spike in records. Yes, we might have long nights. I used to stay with my teams until midnight when we were closing records. And I think that's very important that they see that you are not just giving an order and disappearing. I would hate to do that. If I'm asking something from my team, I would be by their side and working with them and trying to solve the problem, close the record, whatever it may be. Yeah, I think that's how I approach leadership as well. And then understand when it's time to give a break. I always tell my team, you know yourself better than anybody else. Don't burn yourself out. If you need vacation, take the vacation. If you need sick time, take the sick time. It might be a head rest, right? It doesn't have to be a cold or flu. Take that day off and mentally prepare yourself for the next day. So you need to balance that as a leader. I think it cannot be all push for no reason. There should be reasons behind it. You should be able to explain why behind your leadership. I think those are the things that That's how I approach leadership, at least that helped me throughout the years.
It's interesting. Yeah, you strike me as someone that leads from the front. You don't ask your people to do things that you wouldn't do yourself. You have high standards, but fair and
That's
balanced.
fair. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I often find there's a lot of very similar traits in great leaders in the quality lens, and a lot of it was shaped in their early life. You mentioned your background and your backstory. Are there any traits that you, looking back to your early life, like perseverance, that have enabled you to be the leader that you are now?
I don't know. I had a very peaceful childhood. I didn't have many issues. I am the only child. That really defines you in a different way, I think. You can see the only child syndrome in a lot of people. But the schooling system when I was growing up in Turkey was very competitive. And I think that's competitive nature comes from there. So when you get into a middle school, you go through a very like national examination. You try to get into a university, you need to go through a national examination. And these examinations are not like SATs. They have integrals. There's like all the advanced things that you can think of. I look back and I'm like, wow, we learned all of these like when we were in high school. And it is very competitive. There are a lot of tutoring and all the like work going into getting into a very good university. I think that shapes you in a certain way to become more competitive in what you think. And being the only child, I was the only attention in home, right? So my mom always wanted me to really the best that I can be and supported me in every way she can. So I think those are the things that really defines you. And you can see it's coming from different countries. You can see that every culture defines the person in a certain way. They have different values and different approaches. I see this all across. I had a lot of friends from Asia and India, and you can see that how the culture defines some of their traits, and sometimes in a good or bad way, right? But I think it is very important to have that diversity. And that's why I value that a lot, because every culture is different from each other and we can all learn from each other. So that's why I think that's one of the things that defined me when I was younger.
And I'd imagine it helps you, particularly as you step into larger leadership roles or global leadership roles, as you are now, when you are managing people across different regions and different cultures. Tell us a bit more about sort of what your world looks like now, then, in terms of the new role that you've stepped into.
So as I mentioned, managing multiple sites, different parts of the world, definitely requires travel. I travel quite a bit because I don't believe in managing from a distance. You really need to connect with people. You need to talk to them. When I go to the sites, I don't only talk to my direct reports, but I talk to their direct reports and the talented people in the organization that we would like to help grow in their careers. So connect with them. And this might be in quality or other areas, to be honest with you, because I am a leader in the company, not just quality. So I connect with people from different areas as well. And I enjoy it. I enjoy a lot. And look back, I had the opportunity to work with great leaders when I was younger. And I always cherish the moments that I had with them to learn something from them. So I try to give back. Anything that I can help with, anything that helped maybe shape their career as well is valuable to me. So I try to spend a lot of time on that when I visit the sites. I generally clear my calendar mostly, and people get surprised. They are like, you are too busy, like you don't have time probably. But I'm like, no, I'm here for you. I cleared most of my calendar, maybe one or two meetings like that I need to take. But other than that, I really want to focus on the site that I'm visiting, understand their problems, understand the challenges, and work with them. So that's how life has been so far. I mean, I started in November, so I've been to all the US sites so far, some of them multiple times. So been to recently Ireland and UK. I'm hoping to make my way to Germany as well. So we have a site in Marburg and two distribution centers as well. So I want to be able to reach them. And then we have China. I'm waiting for my visa application to visit China at our site in China too. But yeah, my days look like a lot of visiting different sites. Of course, a lot of problems that you need to work with, but that's the nature of our business. And yeah, find solutions to those
Yeah.
problems.
And for someone going for a global role, maybe a step up in their career, what made you a good candidate for that role in terms of the experience that you had?
It's very interesting. I said this yesterday to someone that I was talking. If you wait until you are fully ready, you are probably too late. So you need to take the leap of faith sometimes. And then, of course, the people giving you the job should take the leap of faith as well. So one of a sudden you take over a role. And I've done this before in Moderna, taking over over the lab. So I was the head of global quality control. You learn from it. I lived in Germany as well. I lived in Turkey and US. So that gives you a little bit of different perspective of seeing different cultures and how they interact, how they react to things. That definitely helps, but you need to keep an open mind on that and try to learn. Don't act immediately and try to understand. If you have never worked with that culture, try to understand how they approach things. I'll give you an example. I managed a lot of different countries in the past, but China was new for me. So in this role. So I'm trying to learn their culture, understand how they approach things, how they react to things, how to best manage them. And that's really important, I think. I don't know if I'm the right guy or the best guy for this role. To be honest, I don't think you can claim that. You just try to do your best. And that's what I do, and try to learn every day.
And what should people be for people going into a larger role, a global role where they're managing multiple sites, whether that's across the US or internationally? What are some of the key challenges that they should be aware of going into that role? What are the things that have kind of kept you up at night, the big problems that you've had to try and solve and get around?
I think I'll start with the obvious. The time zone is a big challenge, right? So I manage teams all the way to Australia, now China. When they have a problem, they look up for their leader and you are sleeping, right? So that's really the obvious. And it is very challenging because everything is like one day delayed. I try to empower my teams a lot and try to really align on the lines of decision making and how we can really work well together considering that time zone difference. That's the obvious one. I mentioned about culture. Maybe that's also obvious. Sometimes people don't or underestimate it. But the cultures are very different. You really need to spend time to understand the person that you are working with and the site that you are working with. So those are very important. And then I care a lot about the surveys, the engagement surveys. My team knows that I put targets around it, not because of a score, but I think it is a good reflection of how people are feeling in your organization. And when I see a low score in a site for my quality team, that keeps me at night because I'm not there. I cannot be with them every day, and I really need to trust the person managing them and work with that person to improve. That's a big challenge for me because I started my career working in one site and multiple years, and you connect with people, right? And people know you and get to know you, and you help them. You help them grow. You help them with their challenges and issues. But when you have a global role, it's not that easy. And so you need to definitely find ways how you can improve that and how you can really make that happen, that your teams are working as if you are there and growing, learning, solving problems, and understanding working as a company, which is very important for me. I never look at my role, as I said, a quality leader. I'm a leader in the company, which happens to be working in quality. So it's really important that we work as a team, as a whole team, not just quality team. And I want to make sure that people understand this as well. So but those are the probably three things that's very
Hmm.
challenging working in a global environment.
Yeah, it's it. I mean, it's the point you make about being asleep. Yeah, it's an obvious point, but it's probably something that when you wake up, you're all of a sudden you've got these emails or these problems that have come in overnight, and you're like, well, okay, where do I start?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
probably want to just jump in and problem solve immediately. Do you have to just sort of take a step back and like you say, empower your people to make those decisions in those
Yeah,
circumstances?
I definitely, and quite honestly, I got the first taste of that when I managed overnight teams. So we had third shifts, and when I was first time in QC, That was new to me. I go to home, there's no problem. I came in the morning and there are OSs and issues
Yeah.
that it pops up overnight. I really want my teams to make decisions and support them to make the decisions. Of course, as I said, you need to set some boundaries of what kind of decisions, but in most cases, I want them to be able to feel empowered and have that psychological safety that they can make decisions and that they won't be judged. We all make mistakes. I tell it to my teams all the time. I make mistakes. Who is to tell that my decisions are the best decisions? I make
Mm.
mistakes as well. Your job is to help me make the right decisions, and my job is to support you when you make those decisions. So that's how I look at leadership. And that's why I've seen a lot of my team members in the past growing in their careers, because sometimes all you need is some confidence and
Yeah.
somebody supporting you.
Yeah.
Again, I went through it myself. I learned from the best leaders in the business. So that definitely helps
Yeah.
shape your leadership style.
How about KPIs at a site level? When you go into the role, how does that sort of process of looking at the KPIs, figuring out, are they right? Are we driving the right things? And then figuring out what the key things that you need to be on top of, key metrics that you need to be on top of. How does that process look?
So it's interesting you mentioned KPIs, Hemish. Either you read some of my posts or you guessed well, because I am very KPI oriented. Sometimes to a fault. I've heard in the past like you are very like metrics oriented and all that. I believe if you put the right metrics in, not just for the sake of metrics, but the right metrics in, you keep assessing them, you keep changing them, you keep changing your targets. It gives you a very good direction and almost a roadmap to where you should be going. You set some KPIs at the beginning of the year. You try to achieve them. If you achieve them consistently, you change and you create a new roadmap. So KPIs are, I think, very important. And I just posted something yesterday about this. When I see all green KPIs, that doesn't make me comfortable. I always question, like, there's something wrong. Like, if everything is green, maybe we are not looking at the right thing. Maybe the target is very off. You need to embrace the red and yellow KPIs, because that gives you a direction where you should be going instead of having that false sense of safety. I had a boss in the past. I love his analogy that he uses. So he says it's like watermelon KPIs, right? So green outside and red inside, right? Steve Falcon. I never forget that, and I always try to look at it from that angle. In my current role, I'm doing the same thing. So I see a lot of green KPIs. Guys, are these the right ones? Are we looking at the right ones? Just let's get an inventory of all the KPIs that we look at different sites and the targets at different levels. So we have a tier system. A lot of companies are, I think, going in that direction. What are we looking at each tier and how are they connected to our business and risks? We need to understand that and maybe change our KPIs. And it's also, you need to balance them. You cannot be just having lagging KPIs. You need to look and make sure that some of them are leading so that you are not always chasing your tail. So those are very important for me. That's why I put a lot of importance in KPIs. It also shows that you are improving. You are continuously improving. I'll give you an example. We were looking at the number of deviations we created back in the day, not in my current role, and we were creating record numbers of deviations. So we focused on the right kappas. And we put targets every year to reduce them, not aggressive targets, because I don't want people to be having the wrong culture of hiding things. Minimal, like a minimum target that we can achieve every year, ambitious enough, but not to the point that you would really have issues otherwise. And 5 years in a row, we reduced our deviations, the number of deviations we create. And these were all coming from the right kappas. So we were tracking at the time the kappa effectiveness, the number of kappas we create, because I'm a strong believer that don't open kappa for everything. Target the repetitive things, target the major issues, and have the minimum but most effective kappas that you can have and go after them. And with that, we we have seen improvements. And then we changed our targets. We said, okay, we are doing good. And now look at something different. And that's very important, I think. I look at the KPIs at the heartbeat of the organization. You really need to understand what the risks are and what you should be looking at, and continuously assess if this is the right KPI or the right target.
KPIs are interesting in my industry, in sales, obviously. It's that the word has a bad reputation, and that's largely probably because of poor leadership and how KPIs are driven, and the wrong KPIs. But it's interesting that you say that you're very KPI driven
Yeah.
as a quality leader. What does that look like as a, from, if I'm somebody in your team, what can I expect from you in terms of how you drive KPIs?
So everybody knows, and even my current team, in 3 months, I think they started to see that I care about KPI. So we look at them very regularly, and I expect heads up if we are not meeting things, and I want to understand the reasons why we are not meeting it. Because, yeah, I mean, there are times that you should be missing things, right? And again, like, culture is very important, because KPIs can shape your culture in a very negative way, and you have to be always cautious of that, especially as a quality professional. You don't want people to hide things. You don't want people to prematurely close things just because to meet a KPI. I want to understand. We used to look at CAPAs and try to put the target a month before the due date, so that we don't go overdue, and if things don't go well, you have another month to recover. And look at 2 months ahead. Like, what are the risks for these CAPAs? Are the work going as planned? Are we going to be able to close it? And if there are risks, how can I help? And looking forward and understanding the risks of these work that we are working on is very important. And I think my team knows that I'm very forward looking, trying to understand what's coming, is the work on plan, and don't always assume like we can finish it the last minute. I hate to keep anybody working late hours because we didn't plan this well.
Hmm.
That's why I look at it and I try to avoid it. Yeah, in time, I think people get that culture and expectation that we are closing things on time. We are forward looking, and we are trying to close it much earlier than the due date, so that we are not like putting ourselves in a difficult spot. And because I mean, the Murphy's law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So don't assume that that due date is solid. So try to assume a month before, and let's try to close it early. With that culture, we started with back in day with Sanofi. My team was amazing there. We started with 40% on time closure on CAPAs to closing 70% the first year, 98% the second year, but it was a lot of last minute CAPAs. But after third and fourth year, we were closing 98, 97% on time, and ahead of the schedule. And that culture takes time. The right governance in place, the right mindsets, and you achieve that at the end. But my team knows that I am very competitive on those things, and I want my team to take pride of what they achieve. It's not my achievement. I only help them get there. If they have problems, I try to solve, because some kappas or deviations, something tied to another department, my job is to help them solve whatever that problem is. But at the end, we all achieve the result together, and it's mostly their work, right? It's not my work.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that that overview. That's really interesting. Just sort of coming towards the end of the conversation, Burak, but it's been a really good insight into obviously your journey, but also how you stepped into a global site quality role. Some really fascinating insights that I'm sure a lot of people will take some good practical tips away from. Final sort of question on this before we move on to a couple of quick fire ones. But what are you most excited for looking ahead now for the rest of the year?
There's a lot to be excited about. I'm really blessed to be working in a very good company with a amazing boss. I don't know if he listens. I don't. I'm not saying it just because of that, but having a good boss is everything. Had great bosses in the past, and I was really lucky. But I'm happy with where I am, and there's a lot of challenges to go over. I think on the diagnostic side, Siemens is not the top company now. our role is as leaders in the company to change that, to make us the best that we can through customer experience, through the best product that we can get on the market. And we are working towards that. There are a lot of exciting things happening in the company, and I'm super excited to see how we really hopefully take the leading role in the market for diagnostics.
Burak, thanks so much for your time. It's been a really good conversation. I've enjoyed it. A couple of quick fire ones to finish things. I'm going to throw at you. If you were to speak to your younger self at the beginning of your career, what advice would you give yourself?
It's a tough one. Never give up. I think that's I always tell my people, and I believe in respecting people. So I would always say respect everyone that you work with. It doesn't matter where they are from, what their level is, who they are. Even if sometimes they might be disrespectful to you, try to be respectful, because I think that's important. That defines your character and who you are. I would probably say don't give up and be respectful for everyone.
Who's been the biggest inspiration in your career?
There are a couple.
Yeah.
You actually talked to one of them, Sonia Rossetti, and I worked with her a very short time, but she left a long impression on me, and probably my old boss, Steve Falcone, as well. He's in Novo Nordisk now, but I learned a lot from them. So those are really biggest impressions for me. I try to learn from every leader that I work with, so I don't want to exclude anyone from that, but those are the two big ones as I get into leadership and higher leadership roles.
Final question. What one piece of advice would you give to aspiring quality leaders?
Keep an open mind and don't think in terms of black and white. I think for quality professionals, that's the biggest risk, that if you are thinking the quality is so easy to define with one rule, try to understand the risks and work with your partners. Partnership is very important for quality. People underestimate it. Don't be an outsider. Be part of that larger team and work with them for the best decision for the company.
Thank you so much for your time. You're a busy man, operating across multiple time zones. So I'm sure you've got a lot to do. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Hemish. I really enjoyed the conversation as well. Looking forward to the next upcoming ones.